The webinar has started. I love that. Like it's the
We've
perfect
begun.
intro. We've begun. And there we go. People are coming in. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Monday. If you're on the West Coast like we are, 10 a.m. like realtor time. This is top of the morning to
I was
you.
saying this is very early realtor time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you're on the East Coast, welcome. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you get to, you just finished lunch probably, and you are ready for some amazing content. There's already over 100 people in here. We had, I think, over 700 people registered for this webinar, which is tremendous. Nikki, as always, you get a huge audience. So look at these. I love that
They're
people just beat
so
me
well
to
trained.
this.
Like they're so,
People just
I
beat me
love
to this.
that.
All right. If you just joined, open up your chat. Tell us where you're joining from, like James Baumgartner did. And then RJ, man, you're
That's
slacking.
awesome.
Somebody beat you, RJ. I can't believe somebody beat you. All right. We
That's
got
awesome.
Albuquerque, Austin, Oak Island. Oh my gosh, Oak Island.
And we already got people raising hands. This is flying off, Jeremiah. Should I just leave? Like they don't need us.
No. They need you. They need you. I can leave. You got to stay. I'm stuck on Oak Island though. Is that the same Oak Island where they have the show of like where they treasure hunt on Oak Island? Is that the same place?
Wait,
I
is that
need
a
to know
thing?
this now. Oh, it's the thing. There's like a show on the Discovery
I see
Channel
a
called
no.
like.
She says no.
Oh man! All right, I'm sorry, Michelle. I got really excited about your Oak Island.
I need to start watching TV. I miss like every mainstream reference.
Yeah, you'll. I don't know that that's mainstream. It's on the Discovery Channel. Like it's a nerd stream reference. Okay, it's 10:05. We got a couple hundred people in here. Welcome everybody. If you just joined, my name's Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Movoto. We got new swag. So it's a pretty exciting day because I get to use the new swag, the new Zoom background, and we have a tremendous guest that is now part of the team at Ojo. So I'm even more excited about that. But I think it's 10:05. This is being recorded, but I would also encourage you to have a pen, paper, note-taking utensil ready because I know that Miss Nikki Miller is going to just absolutely drop fire for you all for the next 30 to 45 minutes. So here's the run of show for today. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, who actually, I guess you're not a guest speaker anymore. You're just a speaker. I'm sorry. You lose the
Now
guest
I'm boring.
title.
I'm just like one of the team. Now you're just stuck with me.
So I'm going to introduce Nikki for those of you that don't already know Nikki. Nikki is going to share some amazing insights with you. And then we'll do some Q&A at the end. So if you don't know Nikki, Nikki's the founder and CEO of the Lead Syndicate. Lead Syndicate was a first of its kind leverage platform exclusively optimized for individual agents that operated in over 125 locations across 24 states. Nikki's got a passion for real estate agent success, unlike anybody else you've ever seen. It's evident in everything she touches, from the idea of the Lead Syndicate to the countless free resources she provides, to the many real estate events you can see her training out throughout the year. She has now joined us here at Ojo/Movoto as the head of agent programs, and she is leading the charge forward with our new platform called Lever. And as the former CEO and founder of the Lead Syndicate, she's got more than a decade of real estate industry experience. She is one of the most successful trainers. Nikki brings huge and deep expertise in training and systems development to this Lever platform that we now get to share with all of you at Movoto across all of our agent platforms. So Nikki, welcome as your first official masterclass as a Movoto/Ojo employee. Super excited to have you.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Jeremiah, for that glowing intro. It's almost like I wrote it myself. So, shall we? All right, I'm kicking Jeremiah off. Let's have some fun, y'all. Sound good? Okay. So as Jeremiah said, originally I started a company called the Lead Syndicate. And the Lead Syndicate, like you said, was a platform that was exclusively and specifically designed for individual real estate agents. And I built that from my experience being a coach, being an individual agent myself in the business. And I basically built something that had all the aspects of what was missing. And I realized through that process that my special skill in real estate, the thing that I was exceptional at, that I am exceptional at, is just paying attention. So today is really a class that I wrote just by paying attention. And my goal is that all of you will be able to recognize some of these aspects inside your own business, because the gift that I have is that there's likely no one else in the real estate business, in the industry, that has the look at agents' businesses, individual agents' businesses specifically, that I have, because I see their businesses up close. We support them in every aspect of their business, and I see what works and I see what doesn't work. I've had the privilege of coaching thousands of agents over my career, and you would have to be a fool to do what I do and to have done it as long as I've done it and not see trends. And one of the biggest trends that I see is that I'll teach a business planning clinic, for example, or I'll coach a team or a group of agents on what they're going to build or do for the coming year. And this is how it often goes. They'll say, okay, this year, Nikki, I want to double my business. This year, I want to 10x or 2x or whatever it is from what I did last year. And I'll say, that's amazing. What are you going to do differently? And they'll say, well, nothing. I'm not going to do anything differently. I'm just going to double it. I'm like, well, that's not how that works, right? So we know that success leaves clues, so does failure. And if we follow the clues, then we can recognize ourselves in our businesses and to be able to grow to the extent that we're looking to grow. So where this entire class came from is an exercise that I did with a group of agents. I was called in by a big company to do a mastermind with their top, sorry guys, I'm grabbing some hot water. I've been under the weather, so I'm making sure I don't like have a coughing fit on you guys. So I did a mastermind with a big company's top individual agents, and they brought me in, and every single agent in that room had the same goal that probably every single one of you has. So I looked around and I said, okay, how many of you want to grow your business this year? And make no mistake, just like everybody on this call, there wasn't one person who didn't raise their hand. There wasn't a single person on the call or in the room who said, I would like to stay exactly where I am. I don't want to make any more money. I don't want to grow at all. I want to remain exactly the same. Nobody says that. We're all looking to grow. And I said, okay, well, how are we going to do it? And we sort of wishy-washed around, and some people sort of gave a half-baked plan. And I think I'm going to try this, and I think I'm going to do that. And ultimately, no one was giving real tactical ways that they were going to grow. And I said, okay, let me give you a different question that I bet y'all are going to be able to answer. And by the way, I would recommend, if you're ever in your head about, I don't know what to do, and you keep getting stuck in that stupid story, which is not real, I would challenge you to try this alternative, which I use as a coach often. I said, okay, forget my first question. Clearly, we don't know what to do. I said, let me ask you a different question. What would you have to do to absolutely ensure that you wouldn't hit your goals this year? And make no mistake, every single hand in the room went up, and they all knew exactly what they shouldn't do in order to hit their goals. And I said, okay, so we're all clear on what we could do to not succeed, which means that all we have to do is turn those around and understand that the alternative is exactly the path to success, right? Whenever someone doesn't know their plan, and by the way, you do know, you have all the knowing that you need inside of you. You know exactly what to do. By the way, I'm not telling you that it's going to feel good, and I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be the easy solution, but you know exactly what to do. And where this entire class came from was from when I was in that room, and every single one of them raised their hand and said, here's how we could ensure that we wouldn't be successful. So I just flipped all of those around and said, here's your path to having your best year yet. Here's the 11 ways that you all came up with that you could have your absolute best year yet. And that's what I'm going to be walking you through today. So as we go through this, I'm going to go pretty quickly because I don't have that much time. Jeremiah will give me the hook about 15 minutes before the end of the session so that we can make sure that we answer any questions. By the way, I hate this new Apple update. It just puts things up on my screen because I talk with my hands. So, all right, so 11 ways that we're going to make you an extra 100K this year, or 200 or 300. It just depends on how much you want to dial it up, right? As much as you want to turn the knob, you will be able to turn the knob. And so number one is that we focus on the action, not the outcome. Number one is we focus on the action, not the outcome. This is a big challenge that I see with agents. Whenever we're growing, we're in a class about how to grow or how to build, or a class about building the plan in order to grow, they'll often focus on what it is that they want to achieve. By the way, this can look different for every agent. Maybe it's, I want to achieve more time in my business, or I want to achieve more money in my business, or I want to close more units, or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. And what they're looking at is the actual outcome. And by the way, I would offer this. Some people don't believe me when I say I'm not actually a big goal setter. I'm really not. What I care far more about is process than I do about actual outcome, because I've come to find in business and success that if you master the process, if you master the action, it will certainly lead you to the outcome. Now, you need to know where it is that you're headed. You need to know whether you're trying to walk north or south or east or west. So you have to have a general direction, but you know that your goal is to have success. Therefore, you know what to do, that you need to do the right things. You know what the right things are in your business. So you need to focus on what the action is in order to get you to that outcome, right? So for you, that might look like making more contacts consistently. It might look like training your team to do the same. It might look like hiring that leverage. It might look like any of the other tactics that I'm going to walk you through today. But ultimately, the first one that I would give all of you, that I would challenge all of you to take through the rest of the year, is that you focus on the action, not the outcome. I see a lot of people right now. I know what's going on in the real estate world, and I know people are scared and they're nervous and they're focusing heavily on the outcome. And here's what I know will not change. People will always need help buying and selling real estate. Always. That's not going to change. The actions in order to get in front of people who need help to buy and sell real estate are likely not going to change. So if you focus on that, if you release the outcome and focus instead on the right actions and do them consistently enough over time, you will pick your head up and you will find yourself exactly where you wanted and planned to be. So we focus on the action, not the outcome. The next is that we have to identify the plan. We have to identify the plan. Now, I'm not saying the plan like most of you had, where you went to a business planning clinic, maybe in October, November, December, maybe in January if you were a little bit late this year, and you wrote down the plan and you sort of gave yourself a broad idea of what it was going to look like. And then you took that amazing, beautiful plan that you spent all that time writing out, and then you stuffed it in a drawer, RIP, with the rest of the plans that you've ever written for your business and all the rest of the other training manuals, and where you usually put your notes from things like master classes like this. And I'm going to give all of you a challenge today. If you're going to spend your time here in those classes or anywhere else, I'm going to challenge you all to go and do something with it. To just take at least one thing that you learned today and go and implement it, because all that matters is that you're actually taking action. All of this is just knowledge until you just go and choose to do something with it. So I'm going to challenge every single one of you today to not waste your time if you don't intend to take action on what it is that you're learning. So we have to build the plan. And by the way, if you're looking at your business and you're saying, I want to double it, well, that doesn't happen by magic. Something in the plan is going to have to change. If your plan looks a whole lot like your plan has every other year, you're going to fail. You are not going to hit the goal that you have. And so whenever I'm working with an agent, they'll say, well, my goal is to double the business. And I'll say, awesome. What'd you do last year? Let's say it was 25 units. That's what I did last year. And I'll say, okay, great. Well, on average, how many contacts you make? Well, I'm not really sure because I don't track it, but this is probably my rough amount. And I'll say, okay, great. What were your lead generation levers? It was this and this. I'll say, awesome. And I say, what's your plan for this year? And they say, well, my lead generation levers are this and this. And I'll say, okay. And what's your plan for contacts? Well, it's about what it was going to be last year. I'm like, great. Then you will have the exact same year that you had last year, the exact same year that you had last year, because you are implementing the exact same plan. If you want different results, you have to behave differently. I take this so far in my own life that every year I don't actually build a goal list for the year. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I build what I call a different list. And it's my reminder to myself that if I want to get different results, I will have to behave differently. And so I look at my life and I look at my business. And I say, okay, if I want to be in this place at the end of the year, how do I need to show up differently? How do I need to behave differently in order to get different results? Do I need to add another lead generation lever? Do I need to actually track my contacts this year? Do I need to get leverage that I didn't have before? What needs to change in order for me to get to where I want to go, right? So if you don't have the plan, then you can't hope to follow the plan. And if you don't follow the plan, then you're sort of whimsically walking through your business and you're going to get whimsical results. As I say to our team often, a ship with no direction doesn't care which way the wind blows. So you have to set the destination and then focus on the action in order to get you there. Focus on the action over time, right? The next is that we have to track our numbers. So we force this upon people, for lack of a better way of saying it, we force this upon people inside our business. Inside Lever, we have the agents turn in their numbers on a weekly basis. And by the way, some people look at that and they're like, oh man, that sounds a whole lot like accountability. Well, it is. And it's also my way of making sure that I actually show up for my people the way that I promised them I would show up. Because I take very seriously as a leader, as a coach, that if I tell someone that I'm going to get them to a certain place in their business, that I'm going to actually be able to get them there. And here's the challenge. If I'm not watching the numbers, I don't actually have the whole story. And here's what I mean by that. If you're not watching how many contacts it takes for you to get to an appointment, well, then how many contacts do you know to get? If you don't know how many appointments you need to get in order to get a conversion, well, then how are you ever going to know how many appointments you should have? If your goal is to sell 50 houses this year, you need to know how many people you need to be talking to, therefore how many leads you need to have coming in, how many of those people need to convert to transaction, etc. And here's the challenge that I see in so many businesses. People are blind as to what their actual numbers are. And so they don't actually know how hard they need to work, or really what I tell people is that you don't actually have to work as hard as you think. When you're tracking your numbers, you have crystal clarity on how many people you need to talk to in order to get to where you want to go, right? We have to actually look at what these numbers are. And here's where this shows up in our business and where it's shown up for our agents. I remember I track everything in my ecosystem, everything, because numbers always tell a story. And back in early 2022, towards the end of 2021 and early 2022, I watch all of our contact to appointment ratios because they get turned in by hundreds of agents every single week. And I track those across our whole organization. And I started to see a trend where the number of contacts to appointment was going up, right? And if the number of contacts to appointment is going up, what does that mean for the business? Throw it in the chat. I know we have a smart group on here. And I started to see this trend. So like I said, towards the end of 2021, early 2022, I started to see the number of contacts increase and the number of appointments go down. So my contact to appointment ratio was changing. And then I called a couple of friends of mine who have big ISA departments. Yeah, Mark said it, tougher conversion rate, exactly. So then I called a couple of friends of mine who have big ISA departments, internal sales agents. People who are on the phones all day, every day. And I said, hey, I'm noticing this trend in my team's numbers. What are you seeing? And they pulled up their numbers and guess what? They saw the same. And so I went back to my team in about February of 2022 and I said, hey, this is always the first indicator that the market is changing. And I know you don't feel it yet, but it's coming. It's taking more contacts to get to an appointment. If it takes more contacts to get to an appointment, it means that you not only need to have more leads coming in, but it also means that you need to be talking to more people in order to get to the same number of appointments. Well, what usually happens, contacts are usually the leading domino. So what usually happens if your contact to appointment ratio goes up? It also usually means that your appointment to conversion ratio goes up. You need to have more appointments in order to convert the same number of buyers and sellers. And half of our organization was like, Nikki, you're crazy. This is the best market we've ever seen. We have a license and a pulse and we walk outside and a consumer falls in our lap and like, you're nuts. We're not doing any more work than we have to do. And some of the agents in our organization took me very seriously and said, we hear you. We know you see something different than what we're feeling. So we'll buy in and we'll do more contacts. Well, what happened in June of 2022? Market changed a little bit everywhere, by the way. We run a national organization. And those agents who heeded the advice, who followed those trends, were way ahead of the market. And I'll tell you that all of those agents that were with us outperformed their markets by over 300% in 2023 because of all of the work that they set themselves up for in 2022. Watch your numbers. They tell a story. And the beautiful thing about watching your numbers is that you don't have to work as hard because you know exactly what you need to do. If I know that I need to get 12 contacts every single day, that's my job. Every single day, my job is just to get 12 contacts. I don't have to do any more. I can't do any less, but I don't have to spin my wheels wondering what it is that I'm trying to do if I know exactly what I need to do by way of tracking what's happening inside my business. So track your numbers so that you know exactly how to get the results that you're looking for. Number 4 is be proactive, not reactive. Be proactive, not reactive. Man, I wish I could put this on a big sign in everybody's real estate office right now. This is always the case in the world of real estate, but especially right now. And by the way, I don't just mean be proactive in the business or be proactive with clients. I mean be proactive in your business, not reactive, in a lot of different ways. Here's the biggest one I'm seeing right now. I made the mistake after the announcement of the NAR settlement of going on Facebook. And just out of curiosity got me, and I said, I wonder what agent sentiment is right now. And I was floored by the number of agents in agent groups or on their pages who said, well, I guess we got to figure out our value proposition now. Well, I guess we better figure out how to talk to buyers about commission. Well, I guess we better figure out how to present the buyer broker agreement. I'm like, everybody should have already known how to do that. Why are we just now figuring this out? This is something we all should have known how to do. This is something we should have been doing the whole time. Be proactive, not reactive. When you treat your business like a business, when you train your skills, when you operate like a professional, then changes are just changes. Changes are always going to be guaranteed. This isn't the first. This won't be the last. It's the sky isn't falling, to Leon's point in the chat. And if you were already prepared in how to have these conversations, then not much is going to change for you. For the people who weren't prepared, we're going to have to sharpen those skills, right? By the way, you're not behind if you choose not to be. You're not behind if you choose not to be, okay? And so when I look up, I say, let's be proactive instead of reactive. Let's be in front of the numbers in our business instead of trying to play catch up when the market finally shows the signs of it changing. Let's be proactive with our consumers. Let's be proactive with the people who say, well, I think I'm buying a year from now. Awesome. Is it okay if I check in with you every quarter or so just to make sure nothing's changed? The thing that makes my skin crawl more than anything in the world as a real estate coach is when someone says, well, this person sold or bought and they didn't tell me. I'm like, awesome. It's not their job to tell you. It's your job to check in with them. It's your job to be proactive. It's your job to be in front of them. It's your job to provide value in whatever value means for your consumer. So we be proactive in our business instead of reactive. The truth is, you are going to have to take action either way. You are going to have to take action either way. The question is, do you want to wait till you're in pain? Do you want to wait until you've received the compound interest of not resolving the problems? Or would you rather just deal with it now? One day I will come up with a better example, but the one that I always give our organization is you always get to decide whether you want to kill Godzilla when he's a baby or whether you want to kill him when he's wrecking the city. Like, you get to decide, totally your choice. I would rather do it when he's a baby. I don't want to try to fight him when he's a big monster wrecking New York, right? You get to decide. So ultimately we want to be proactive, not reactive. Number 5 is ask for the business. Just ask for the business. It always makes me laugh when I give this principle and people are like, well, duh. I'm like, well, then why don't you do it? Why don't you ask for the business? I can't tell you how many people I've coached in my career who say, Nikki, I don't get it. I'm making the contacts, I'm making the calls, I'm talking to people in my database, and I'll say, yeah, that's weird. I see that. I see that you're talking to a lot of people. And I'll say, well, let me sit in on your calls. Let me just sit for a day with you. And I'll listen to their calls, and they're making the contacts and they're talking to their database, and there's one thing that they're not doing. They're not asking for the business. And here's the example I give here. This is the equivalent of going out every single day into the forest with the goal to chop down a tree, and you are whacking away at the exact same tree every single day, working as hard as you can, but you're using a baseball bat instead of an axe. It's going to take you eons to knock that thing down. Probably won't do it in your lifetime. And I see agents do this all the time. They are working so hard and they're just not asking for the business. You're building great relationships and you are just not asking for the business. You're making all these contacts and you are just not closing for the appointment. We are not making contacts for contact's sake. We make contacts for contract's sake. We're not just there to talk to people. We're there to actually convert them so that we can be their agent because we know that we are the best agent for them, right? So we have to actually ask for the business. I would recommend all of you put this on a Post-it note, put it on a note, put it wherever it is that you do your lead generation, and just remind yourself, ask for the business. In our world, a contact is not a contact unless you have asked for the business. By the way, I see the most seasoned of agents struggle with this. They are great at building relationships. They quite simply aren't asking for the business. So they feel like they're working really hard. And by the way, they are. Talking to people all day, every day is hard. And they're killing themselves and they feel like they're spinning their wheels. And the one thing that they're not doing is quite simply just asking for the business. And you make that change and all of a sudden their business transforms. So you have to ask for the business. Number 6, practice your craft. This is always important, but never as important as it has been right now. This has always been important and never as important as it is right now. By the way, the worst time to think about what you are going to say to an objection or to a question is in the moment that you are saying it. Practicing your craft simply allows you to know ahead of time how you're going to answer the most common objections, the most common questions, the most common challenges. Almost nothing in real estate is new. You want to know how the best coaches in the world become the best coaches in the world? Experience. There's almost no new challenges that come to me from agents day to day. I'm hearing the same challenges, the same stories, the same issues, day over day, week over week, year over year. And people come out of our coaching sessions and they'll say, man, that was amazing. How did you know? I'm like, because I've read this book before. I've read this book before. I've run this play before. I know exactly what this challenge is because there's almost nothing new coming up in real estate. It's the same thing between you and your clients. By the way, you've always had objections about commission. This isn't new. I bet every single one of you on this call has dealt with a commission objection before. I bet every single one of you on this call has had to explain why a buyer or seller needs to sign a contract before. None of this is new, but the worst time to make a decision about how you are going to communicate these things is in the moment that you're going to communicate them. So if you want to excel in these conversations, you need to be practicing them ahead of time. In our world, we practice scripts at least twice a week, and some of our agents have branched off and created their own scripts group. So they're practicing every day or at least 3 or 4 times a week. We practice at least twice a week. And by the way, I know a sure sign of an agent who's not a fit for our world when they say, oh, I've been in this business for 25 years. I don't need to practice scripts anymore. I'm like, amazing. Is real estate exactly the same as it was 25 years ago? Oh, it's not? Awesome. Then get your butt in scripts. You have to be practicing because the world is changing. The world is constantly changing. And by the way, your level of communication can always improve. I would offer this. If there was one skill that I believe makes any professional, real estate or otherwise, stand out above all others, it's the ability to effectively communicate. And that doesn't come naturally. I don't believe that anybody is a silver-tongued salesman. This comes from practice, and this comes from a true ability to focus on what you want to say, what you want to communicate, and to practice that over time. Every time I'm in a script off or in a scripts class, people say, oh my gosh, how did you know? Like that just seems to come so naturally. I'm like, yeah, because I've been practicing this stuff every single week, almost daily for over a decade. This is not on accident. It's absolutely not on accident. It's on purpose. And if you want your communication to feel seamless, if you want to feel experienced, if you want to feel like you're confident in your product, it's not going to happen on accident. It will have to be on purpose. And the way that you do that is by practicing your craft. Number 7, the magic is in the follow-up. The magic is in the follow-up. In our world, we support hundreds of agents' databases. And as I mentioned, we track everything. And we had a really interesting statistic, which I don't think I prepped anybody for this. So I'll give it to everyone, but it's going to be our little secret because I'm going to give you a little something to take out into the world that's going to make you a ninja inside your database. And it's going to give you a little something that nobody else knows. Y'all ready for it? It's usually not something that we share widely. We track everything in our agents' databases because we run their database inside how we support them in Lever. And this is for hundreds of agents across the country. So what we look at is how many people come into the database, and then who, when, and how they actually convert. Now, let's play a little guessing game. I would go to the mat all day, every day, with someone who accuses that agents don't lead generate. I actually fundamentally disagree with that. I believe that most agents do lead generate. What they're not exceptional at, however, and what they don't excel at is long-term lead follow-up. So most of them are really good in the first 30 to 60 days. Some of them, if they're really good, maybe the first 90 days. But what they're not good at is 120 days out, or a year out, or 2 years out. And we did a study inside the databases that we manage, and we discovered that 70% of the leads that come into a database, if we track it from the day that it gets entered into a database to the day that it converts, anyone want to guess at which year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those actually convert? 70% converted in this year. Throw it in the chat. I want to make sure everybody's still alive out there. Give me a guess. What year on average do they convert? Jason said 3, 3, 3, 3. Y'all are smart. 2, 5, 2. It was year 3. 70% converted in year 3. You see, whenever I have an agent who comes to me with the good old agent script that the leads are bad, I'll say, let's change that conversation. Because I actually don't have, in our world, we don't even call leads leads. We call them human beings, because that's who you're actually talking to. And imagine how it might change your perspective or change the feeling of the person on the other side if you said this human being is bad. This human being is not worth my time. This human being is not qualified. So we're not having conversations about leads. We're having conversations about humans. And we know that it takes most humans until their 3rd year of being in our database to convert. So what that means is that we are all in the relationship building business. And by the way, we're not in the short-term relationship building business. We're in the long-term relationship building business. It's going to take 3 years on average of you being in front of that person, of you continuously providing value, of you remaining in front of them in order to increase your likelihood of conversion. So when you think about following up, it's not I'll follow up this week or I'll follow up next month. It's I'm going to be following up with you consistently over the course of the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years to ensure that I'm the one you think of when you think of real estate. Number 8, make your business boring. Make your business boring. A couple of months ago, I gave away as part of a charity auction for a real estate group that a couple people could come and shadow me. So I let them actually stay at my house, and they literally shadowed me from the time that I left the house in the morning all the way through my day to the time that we went to dinner. And by the time we got to dinner, I said, all right, and all they could do was shadow, no questions during the day. So they had to just shadow. They literally just sat in my office and kind of watched how I moved through a day and watched a couple meetings with my team. And so we get to dinner at the end of the day, and I said, what are your ahas? And they both looked at each other and started laughing. And I said, what, did I miss an inside joke? And they said, well, Nikki, we hate to say this, but like, you're kind of boring. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, we expected like that you would wake up and drink gasoline and there would be some crazy event when you walked into your office and there was like some chaos that you were managing constantly. But like your life and your business is pretty boring. And I said, yeah, that's by design. Well-run businesses are very boring. They're very consistent. They're very boring. We all know what to do. No surprises here. You see, as a leader, I don't believe in holding people accountable to something I never told them I was going to hold them accountable to. And make no mistake, even if you run your own business as an individual and agent, you are a leader for yourself, for your family, for the ancillary businesses that are a part of your business. And you have to identify what it is that you're going to hold yourself accountable to. Well-run businesses are usually highly systematized and therefore highly boring. There's no guesswork as to what I'm going to do every day. There's no guesswork in my business. It's very boring because it's very clearly mapped out. Everybody's clear what they're supposed to do, and we all have crystal clear expectations. Great businesses are very boring. The more boring you can make your business, likely the more successful you will be. So make it boring, make it highly systematized, make it predictable. Number 9, don't overestimate what it takes to be successful. I'm going to remind you what I talked about with identifying your numbers and having clarity on your numbers. Most people underestimate what they can do. You guys have all heard the adage. They underestimate what they can do in a year and overestimate what they can do in a year, underestimate what they can do in 5 years. People also underestimate what it takes to be successful in business. It just takes consistency over time, and it doesn't actually require that much work. It really doesn't. It just requires consistency. And so when we look up, I challenge that for every person looking at their own business, I challenge those people who are having trouble with their contacts, which by the way is always going to be your job as a real estate agent. There's no way around that. Even if you become a leader of a team, your job is still contacts. You're just talking to different people than you're used to. And so when I look at agents' businesses, I'll often offer this. Those agents that make 10 contacts every other week are still behind the person who consistently makes 1 every single day. Business is just about consistency over time. That's really what it's about. It's about consistency over time, doing the right thing for long enough to actually manifest the results. And most people heavily underestimate the work that it takes to be successful. It doesn't actually take that much. They overestimate the work that it takes to be successful. It doesn't actually take that much, but what it does take is consistency over time. Most agents have bursts of consistency and then fall off, and that's why you see the agent roller coaster. The whole reason Lever was born was to help agents to not have the roller coaster and have the consistency created for them. They still have to do their part, but to have all of these things happening on the other side to help them to be more consistent in the business, to feel that consistency over time. Success is boring, very boring. You have to make peace with the fact that it's boring, that it's very monotonous. And you also have to make peace with the fact that it doesn't actually take that much. It just takes consistency of doing the right things. It's interesting to me, a lot of people talk about the failure rate in real estate. Y'all ever hear that rhetoric, whether it's on social media or in your offices or whatever? You'll have that one like old timer, I hate to say it, but you'll have that one old timer who's been in the business for like 100 years. And you're like, well, most people fail out in the first 2 years. By the way, the fail rate for new businesses is almost identical to that of real estate. The failure rate of brand new businesses is almost identical to that of real estate. This isn't a real estate problem. This is a human problem. We often underestimate what it's going to take, which is really just consistency over time, right? We believe it takes far more work, and we also believe that it happens much faster than it actually does. Growing a huge real estate business takes time and it takes consistency, and you have to give yourself the right path and the right plan in order to be able to manifest those results over time. All right, I'm going to speed it up because I know we only got a couple minutes left and I want to make sure we get to questions. All right, number 10, you got to watch your money. You have to watch your money. This is one of the hardest conversations that I have with agents. Often agents will come to me and they'll say, well, I don't want to get leverage like that, or I don't want to do it that way, or I'm netting this much. And I'll say, really? Let's take a look at your P&L. And they'll bring it And what we end up finding is that because they're not tracking their money, because they're not watching their money, they don't actually have clarity on what they're bringing in and what's going out. They think they have one profit margin, but they've forgotten to include their own time. They've forgotten to include the mind share and the time it takes for them to put pieces together. They've forgotten to include where they should move around things to ensure that it's matching their seasonality. They forget to check to make sure the investments they're making are actually bringing them results. You have to watch your money. This is one of the biggest challenges I see for agents. And because you don't watch your money, the all-inclusive you, or maybe I'm talking to you, because agents don't watch their money, they then don't understand the value of their time and the value of their investment, and therefore can't make wiser decisions with their money. They get challenged when they think about investing in this or investing in that, or getting support here, whatever that looks like, because they're not watching their money. I can't tell you how many side-by-side examples I've done with agents of their P&L as it is right now, and then the support that we provide them through our platform for them to realize they're not netting what they think they're netting. And it's simply because they don't watch their money. And by the way, this is probably the thing I see agents get most defensive of. And yet it's the thing that will set you free in your business if you start to track it and start to really understand it. You have to watch your money. All right, last principle, and then I'm going to take some questions. Number 11 is don't try to do it all solo. Absolutely don't try to do it all solo. You are not alone in your business. By the way, I say to every agent, if you've ever heard me speak before, you've probably heard this principle, but I ask every single agent when they're hitting their ceiling of achievement, whatever that looks like for you, I'll ask every single agent how you want to pay. Like, the bill is always going to be due, and you get to decide when, where, and how you want to pay that, right? And ultimately, when we look up with those agents, we say, okay, you have 3 options. Every agent has 3 options. By the way, I'm going to challenge all of you to make a decision on this inside your own business today. Option number 1 is that you do it. In other words, you spend the time, you spend the money, you spend the energy, you are the one to figure it out. Even with a coach, even with a roadmap, it's going to take you time in order to be able to do it. The upside to this is you get to own the knowledge forever. Like, no one can come in the night and take that away from you. The downside is that this is a slow path to growth. And the challenge for most agents is that they don't give themselves long enough for that growth to actually happen. So they succeed so slowly, they feel like they're failing, and then they'll quit. Option number 2 is that you find somebody else to do it. I hate this Apple update, you guys. Option number 2 is you find somebody else to do it, right? You pay the person who's done that job before. You maybe pay a little bit more because they're more experienced. You join the team, you join the leverage platform, like whatever leverage looks like for you. And the upside to this is that you get to go much faster. You get to work through that challenge much faster. The downside is that you have to hold yourself accountable to the spend. You have to hold yourself accountable to the spend. And here's what I see most agents do. They get all this time back once they get leverage, and they don't use the time that they get back to focus on what matters most and what actually moves the needle in their business, right? And so they say, well, leverage doesn't work. And I say, no, leverage does work. You didn't work it correctly. And then, of course, you always have option number 3, which is you stay exactly where you are. In other words, you do nothing at all. And the upside to this one is that you don't have to get uncomfortable. Change is hard, guys. We're seeing that live right now. Most people do not do well with change. You don't have to get uncomfortable. You don't have to change the status quo. Nothing has to change. But remember, there's upsides and downsides to each of these. And the downside to this one is, remember, the question is how you want to pay. And by doing nothing at all, you don't pay for that today, and you don't pay for it tomorrow. You pay in the compound interest of not solving that problem later. But either way, you're always choosing how you want to pay. And ultimately, remember that not everyone has to get leverage in the form of hiring someone or joining a team or joining a leverage platform. You have leverage around you. Y'all are building other people's business in conjunction with your business all the time. You're building your home inspector's business. You're building your title person's business, your escrow person's business, your attorney's business, your termite inspector's business, your lender's business. Ask them how they can help you. Ask them how they can help support your business so that you aren't doing it all solo. You're never by yourself, and you always get to decide how you want to pay. I promised everybody I would put this up. If you want to learn a little bit more about Lever, if you want to join us, this QR code is for an info session. This is my email if you want to stay in contact with me. I'd love to hear if y'all are using these principles and how they're actually working out. Remember, success leaves clues, so does failure. So just follow the right path. But this is a QR code. If you want to learn a little bit more about Lever and join an information session, that's what this is. And we would love to have you. And I'll make sure I unshare now, Jeremiah, so we can get to questions.
All right, I got the first one. Could
Okay.
you give an example of what could be stated when asking for the business?
Yeah, I mean, there's a million examples. It really just depends on what the conversation that you're having. I like to do this really naturally. And the way that I close really naturally in any environment is I always use a this is what happens next. And what I mean by that is if I'm having a conversation with Jeremiah and Jeremiah is saying, well, yeah, we're thinking about buying in the next year. By the way, if almost every buyer I've ever talked to uses the next year as their timeline. Is the next year actually their timeline? No, they just don't want to be closed right now. That's all that they're saying. And so they'll say, yeah, I'm thinking about buying in the next year. And so then the conversation starts with, well, Jeremiah, tell me more about that. Why now? I'm having another baby. I need more space, or this is happening in my life, whatever it is. And I'm just asking questions. I'm literally just being a human being curious. And then I get enough information to say, well, Jeremiah, the next step would be for you to do X step. Talk with a lender. Let's understand what the equity you have in your current home is. And here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to connect you with my lender via text, and let's set up a time for me to come by and give you a home valuation. It should always just be the next most natural part of the conversation. I think agents make closing so awkward because you're so nervous about it. But if you've done a great job in the consultation, it's a very normal part of the conversation. It's just, this is what happens next, right? So this is the next step based off what you've told me. And if they don't have any real estate needs, then the conversation goes a little something like, well, Jeremiah, I'm always here for you if you need it. And by the way, Jeremiah, if you ever have any friends who have any real estate questions, I really pride myself on being the best real estate agent in XYZ city. I'd love to be of support to them, even if they just need the same offering that I gave to you. If they ever need a contractor, a vendor, anything like that, I'm really happy to be their real estate resource. Do you know anyone right now who needs help?
It's amazing. I love that. I love how you said that, right? Because a great close is just a natural progression of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so when somebody says, I'm looking to buy in the next year, it's like, oh, that's amazing. Why, tell me more about a year. Why is a year the timeline? And I like what you said, because often what you'll find, right, is if you ask the question, well, if you could buy sooner than a year, is that something that you'd want to do? And you'll find them say something like, well, sure, but I need to save for down payment, or sure, but I'm working on my credit. Oh, great. So if there's a way that you could do that now and you didn't have to wait and we could get that done, is that something you'd want to do? Well, sure. Great. So here's what's next. I love it. Love it. There's a question in here about CRMs and like, what CRM do you use? I feel like this is a very personal opinion, but curious on your feedback.
My answer is use whichever one you will actually use. We support like a dozen in Lever. There is no best CRM. Like there's just not. The best CRM is the one that you actually use. And I don't care. I've had agents come to me who are selling $100 million a year in real estate who do it all off an Excel sheet. Like, and that's it. That's what they use. But they're diligent again in the action, not looking for the outcome. The CRM is the outcome. The action is you need to talk to people in your real estate business every day. So whatever allows you to do that, go and use that CRM.
And can I plus what you said for a minute?
Yeah.
Because when I talk to agents and they say like, oh, this is the CRM I use, more often than not, what they're saying is, this is the piece of technology that I use to spam all of my clients.
Yeah.
That is not what Nikki means when she says, find a CRM you'll use. What she means is, find a database that will help you track and record your conversations and remind you to follow up and connect with the humans in your database, not a tool to send automated spam texts and emails to these people.
I love that Raul doubled down on this. He's like, if I had to choose a CRM, I love isolating an objection, Raul, like respect. If I had to choose a CRM, which would I choose? Whichever one you are going to use, whichever one you will log into every single day and track the conversations that you're having with people.
Amazing. I love it. Hey, there's a question. What was point number 2 of your points, Nikki?
What's your plan? build the plan. So if your goal is to double, you have to make sure that you are in a position to double based off the plan that you have. Running the same playbook and looking for a completely different result is absolutely not going to get you there. And I see agents make this mistake all the time.
Love it. I love it. We've got like 5 minutes left. And I know we've talked a little bit about Lever. You've got the QR code so that people can sign up for a Lever information session. And I know those are a little bit longer.
Yep.
Can you give, it looks like you want to make a point, and then can you give like a condensed Lever information session for the people looking for more info on Lever?
Yeah, I just put up number 7 because that was a question in the Q&A. So Lever is very much a first of its kind leverage platform that's exclusively and specifically designed for individual real estate agents. And y'all, this was really just born from my own frustration that historically we talked a lot about growth today, right? And historically, every individual agent inside their business is going to hit a ceiling of achievement. Like it's not if, it's when. You are going to hit a ceiling of achievement. And by the way, when I say that, that looks different for everybody. Sometimes it's a ceiling in time, in money, in number of units that you're able to sell, in energy, like it can, or all of those at once. And historically, the only options that you had to blow through that ceiling were either join a team, build the leverage yourself, and take on a bunch of overhead and responsibility for people, which comes with its own set of challenges, and or stay where you are. Like those were it. That was it. And when I was growing in my real estate business, I said, well, I don't want to join a team. I don't want to give up my brand and my production. And I don't want to build it myself because I really don't want to manage people and I really don't want to take on the other overhead. But I understand that there will be consequence to staying exactly where I am. And so eventually I said, well, what would it look like if I could give agents all the economies of scale, all the support, all the benefits, all the infrastructure of having a team around them, but I would allow them to keep and maintain their own brand, and prevent them from having to take on a bunch of overhead or from having to build it and manage it themselves. What would that look like? And that's how Lever was born. So we support agents and we call it the Big Five, very comprehensively, and it's broker agnostic, doesn't matter who you're with. And we support your business as if you had that team around you. So in all of your training and conversion coaching, database management, marketing, transaction management, and supplemental lead generation. So I'll go in more detail in all of that. This isn't intended to be like a Lever session, but I'll go in more detail in all of that on the info session. I can drop that link in the chat as well. But that's what we do. And specifically, like I said, we serve individual agents, not teams or team members.
Awesome.
Adam,
There's an ask to flash the QR code up there one more time.
Yeah, and I'm going to put it in the chat as well. And then I'll ask or I'll answer Adam's question. How do you track a completely new lead source? Example, social media or video activity? It's a great question, Adam. And I think a lot of people don't ask that. So thank you. Thank you for asking that. And don't consider the time it takes for a new lead source to actually show results. And I would also offer, if it is a lead source, let me specify what I mean by that. Something like social media, for example, to me, isn't necessarily a lead source. It's a brand building source, unless I'm very pointedly and specifically connecting it to a lead magnet. Okay, so you first have to ask yourself, is this actually a lead source? Do I actually have a CTA? Is there actually a way for people to reach out to me? Is there actually a direct line of communication for me to be able to contact them? And if it's not, then that's just a marketing source. But if it is actually a lead source, then I would give myself at least a year on whenever that lead source is. And I would track how many I have coming in, what was driving them coming in, how many contacts it took, and also what the conversion was. Because something like, for example, it also depends on the type. So for example, I was coaching someone the other day who brings in a lot of Facebook leads. And they said, well, Facebook leads are like kind of garbage and they don't work. And I was like, I actually don't think that's real. I think what you're seeing is that Facebook leads have a really long runway because I don't know about y'all, but I don't go on Facebook to look at homes. So you're trying to sell homes to people who are not looking in a place in order to sell homes. Something like a lead that comes through Movoto, which is a homes site where someone's saying, I'm looking at these homes and I'm interested in them, is a different scenario. But Facebook, they clicked on an ad, said, I'm now thinking about this because it was put in front of me. And those are going to be a much longer role. So I say all that to say this, track all the normal things that you would track, but just be clear that it's actually a lead source and also be clear that you're giving it the right amount of time based off which lead source it is.
Love it. There's a question that I answered. Lever is for individual agents, not teams or agents on teams. And then there's a question that I was just waiting for how long this one would take to come up, which is, what's your thought on the new NAR ruling specifically for buyer's agents?
Candidly, I don't have an opinion on it. Like I just really don't have an opinion on it. It is what it is. Like it doesn't matter if I agree with it, and it doesn't matter if I disagree with it, and it doesn't matter if I whine about it or if I think it's the best thing ever. It is what it is. And if this is going to be the new normal, all my thoughts is that I'm going to make sure that my group is prepared as best as they possibly can be to win in this new phase of real estate. And I believe that they were already prepared because we've been talking about these things. This is, again, not new in our world, but we've been talking about these things forever, building value propositions, making sure you're having buyer appointments, getting the buyer broker agreement signed. That's not new in our world. So we're just continuing to double down on what we were already teaching. But frankly, I just don't have an opinion on it. It's the new normal, and everybody should stop fighting it and just buckle up. Like, this is like, you can whine about it all you want, but it's still going to be, the results are still the same.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me a lot of what we saw in March of 2020.
Yeah.
We have agent teams that are calling in today. We have agents that are calling in today, and they're saying, hey, I need to cancel my Pro Plus subscription because buyer representation is going away. And it's like, well, is it? I don't think it is,
Yeah,
but
probably not.
if that's the best thing for you, let's do it. And then we call another team in their market, and they're like, amazing. Less competition, huge opportunity. Sign me up. By the way, if anybody else wants out, send them my way.
We'll
I'd love
take
to
their
hire
leads.
for my team. Yeah. And I think that it's like fear or faith. Pick one. You can't have both. And the reality is the industry is not going away. The industry will continue to thrive. There'll still be a tremendous opportunity, and you've just got to operate in faith mode.
Well, I would also offer that fear and faith both require that you believe in something that you cannot see. And so ultimately, you're creating an outcome in either scenario that you cannot see yet. So if given the choice, if I have to create something in the future anyway, I'm going to probably focus on whatever it is that's going to get me to the future that I'm looking for. So you could choose to believe in the future that you cannot see, that is horrific and fearful, and you'll probably make manifest everything that requires, just like we talked about today. We know what to do that makes us unsuccessful, therefore we know what to do what makes us successful. So if you believe in the fear-based future, then yeah, you'll probably take every step in order to make that a reality. And if you believe in the faith-based future, then you will probably take every step to make that a reality. And ultimately, you will get to choose. That's the good news and the bad news. Choice is yours.
Yeah, exactly right. I love it. I love how you said that. In fact, I was like frantically writing that down. That was great. So, y'all, 11 o'clock. We're right on time. If you enjoyed what Nikki had to say and you found value in it, go find the reactions at the bottom of your screen. Give her a round of applause, a thumbs up, a heart, something so that she knows that you're there. I love it. The party kazoos, those are amazing. I hear the sound in my head when I see this. Look at that. It's amazing.
Thank you,
Over 200
everyone.
people
Thanks for
on
having
today. You impacted a ton of lives today. I have a bunch of notes. Even after I told you, I'm like, hey, if you need me, say my name so I know to help you. I sat here and I took notes the whole time. So you did a tremendous job. Thank you as always. For those of y'all looking for those lever sessions, there's a link there. You can always email support@ojo.com. We'll get you dialed in for those. We appreciate all of you. You are absolutely the best part of Movoto because you sell the houses. We don't sell the houses. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for plugging into this. And Nikki, finally, thank you for sharing your expertise with us and the team.
Thanks, everyone, for being here. I love it.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.